Hello, I'm Ryan Chumpy Crash Reynolds, and this is Adrian Bertazoid Townsend.
Whoop.
You're listening to Just a Big Gaming, and you have plateaued.
No, they haven't. they've got so much more to come, man.
Oh, all right. I was trying to be passively discouraging.
I'm the optimist here, apparently.
That's the message we want to purvey, right? It's only downhill from here, kids.
Uphill. You know, this has kind of become like a family gathering for us.
It's become a family tradition at this point.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Yeah. Pizza, beer, wine, kids, wives.
Spouses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, and it is. My kids, well, Tilly doesn't know what the hell's going on around her because she's one.
She gets pizza.
She gets pizza, and she gets to run around with older kids.
That's right.
Fat Big spends 2 weeks talking about coming over, and then we come over, and then we leave, and he talks about the next time the whole way home, and the cycle starts over.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They become quite the buddies, which is really cool.
Yeah, what a pair.
Yeah.
All the jokes we've made on this show about locking them in a room together and seeing what would happen.
It's not going to happen.
They hug a lot, the two of them. They share a lot of hugs.
Excuse me. They're good kids. They have a very similar personalities, and I think that's why they get along so great.
And oddly similar faces.
Yeah, they
They
do.
kind of look alike.
They do.
It's bizarre.
It is. I agree.
I guess you and I look alike.
Yeah, don't we? We do.
Absolutely.
Man, what you been playing?
Almost exclusively PUBG Mobile.
That's a good one to be playing.
Man, I have gotten deep inside of that game. Yeah.
It's got its grips in on you.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like fucking terrible at it.
You got a chicken dinner though.
Squad
Oh, your
play.
squad, okay.
Several. I've got
Still.
a bunch of first place victories with my squad. We're called Slay Queens
Nice.
with a KWEENZ. Slay Queens. And we have a squad rule that no one's allowed to wear shirts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, our squad motto is Tits-N-Pits.
Shirts don't really do anything for you gameplay wise anyway.
Except make you look a lot less threatening.
Yeah.
Without them, looking at those a squad of beefy men with firearms coming straight to you.
Too bad you can't deck them out with tats.
That'd be fantastic if
It
you
would.
could. Or lace.
I'll pass on the lace.
So I've got a handful of squad victories and I don't know, like 3 or 4 duo victories.
Yeah.
The best I've gotten on a solo match is 6th, I think. Worst I've gotten is 99th.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody killed you in the air.
I was on my way down, and I was like, you know what? Fuck everybody else. I'm gonna land in the firing range and pick up all the guns. I mean, it serves to reason that you would find guns in the firing range, right?
Yeah.
So I land, I pick up a pistol, and then I died.
Yeah. I always try to stay away from areas like that. I will go and find the single house and try to go there and get my gun. And that way I could survive just a little bit longer, you know?
Yeah. We made the mistake of going to the school a couple of times. And apparently
Yeah, the school's dangerous.
That's like where the shit goes down, you know? We held it down on 2 matches at the school. But for the most part, you show up at the school, you better be prepared to just die.
Yeah.
Because that's like where this, you know, super advanced players just go and
Or the
wait.
military zone. Have you been there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that place is dangerous too.
I went there once, vowed to never do that again.
Yeah.
You know, I found a motorcycle though, that was fun.
How was driving in that game? I don't think I've driven a vehicle yet.
It's smooth enough. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to.
Yeah.
Like right off the bat, you really got to get used to it. But once you are kind of like in the zone with it, doing the thing, it does get easier. And it's not unintuitive, you know? Like it's straightforward. You've got on the left hand forward and backward arrow, and on the right hand a left and right arrow.
Right.
So it's simple enough. The biggest problem I had driving when I first started was I had the forward and backward arrow with the left, and I kept trying to use my right thumb like you would with the aimer to just move and do like fluid turns and all that, but you've got to use those arrows or it won't work.
Interesting. That's one thing I always had a problem with in the PC version is when you get in a vehicle, they're easy enough to drive, but if you get into any kind of rough terrain or you try to go up a hill or something and you fall over, you risk killing yourself or everybody in the car with you.
Right.
If you tip over or something.
I mean, to be honest, I see no reason that the vehicle controls should be any different than walking. I don't know.
Honestly,
I don't know why there would be two separate sets of controls for that at all.
It would make sense to use the screen for
to just use it the way you would to.
I think
to
maybe
run.
it would steer you too quickly if you
Maybe
did that.
It might be too touchy.
I'm sure they have a reason why. I don't know though.
I like vehicle combat in it though. Usually, one guy in our team, his name's CB. He goes by Seabreezy in the game.
Yeah.
He's usually our driver. He's also most generally our MVP.
Okay.
He's pretty good at the game. And then my buddy Cat
Does
Snake.
he come from PC? Or is this his first encounter?
He's a Fortnite player.
Okay.
So he plays game like competitive shooters a bit though. That's kind of his go-to in gaming.
Right.
So he's in tune with that gameplay. That's not my go-to in gaming by any means.
Yeah.
Competitive shooters, it's never been my thing.
Yeah.
But I enjoy this. I enjoyed Fortnite at first. I still enjoy the occasional Overwatch. This one I'm pretty hooked on though. Like for real.
I think I know why though. Because you are more of a mobile player.
I do really, really like mobile games.
It seems more accompanying to your play style.
Yeah.
You seem like someone who just will need to be able to jump in, play a game or two, and then be able to get off
jump
when
out.
you need. Yeah.
Yeah. Not set up a console and my controller and
you don't have to risk waking up your children late at night.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I can sequester myself to the front seat of my car after midnight.
There you go.
Just within the bounds of my Wi-Fi signal. I've gone underground is the thing.
Well, I'm happy for you. And I'm happy for your chicken dinners, man. That's exciting. I've never had one before yet. So
hey, all you got to do is come play
with your squad.
Play with the Slay Queens.
I will need to do that.
I guarantee you a chicken dinner if you come play a match or two with us.
Okay.
That is my guarantee.
Then I need to get on there and do that. So yeah. We'll get the chicken dinner and we'll talk all about the experience of getting that chicken
I downloaded some software on my phone that I plan on streaming matches.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that. That's interesting.
There's like a YouTube gaming app that you can use to stream directly from your phone, mobile games.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
The only games I play with regularity are mobile games.
Right.
So I figure I might as well just start fucking streaming them.
Do it.
You know?
Do it to it. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Dude, so I've been playing let's see. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 still. I'm still working on that one. That's going to be the next one I finish.
Right.
Last night I was playing it and I got to the final boss and he kicked my ass royally. So I need to level my characters up a little bit and go attempt it again. I do want to give kind of a full review on that game. Not just yet. I want to finish it first. I already have a pretty good idea of what I want to say about it. And there's a lot of good and a lot of bad that I have to say about it. But overall, I'm enjoying the game quite a bit. So that'll probably come on the next episode. Other than that, I've been playing The Fractured Butthole. I got that last week.
Good.
That's a good game. I'm not a South Park fan, and I'm enjoying that game.
Well, I'm not a South Park fan. My brother-in-law is. He got that game when it launched. He was really excited about it. I could not have cared less about the existence of the game, honestly.
Yeah. I was the same way. The only reason I even picked it up is because I had a coupon and I basically got the game for $10. So I was like,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's worth playing at that rate.
Yeah. And I popped it in, started playing it and couldn't stop playing it. 3-4 hours later, it was 1:00 in the morning. I'm like, I like this game. So
yeah.
I'm going to go back to it and finish it as well. But
side note on getting a good deal on games.
Yeah.
The other day I found, Halo 2, like the collector's edition with like the metal case and all of that.
That's the one I had.
For $16. And I was like, I wonder if that's a good deal. No. And when that thing launched, it was like $120.
The Steelbook version when it launched, that's the one I got. It was like $10 more than the regular version.
Oh, okay. I found people online selling them for like $124 and saying launch price, new and wrapper.
Unless it's like the one with the helmet head that came with Halo 3. I don't think they had any special editions like that on Halo 2. But Halo 2 is not a valuable game by any means. Special edition or not, it's still a pretty cheap game. $16 sounds about right for that game.
No, all right.
I would even go wager to go less than that.
Okay. I was just curious. That was totally, random, but
you just asked the encyclopedia of retro game pricing knowledge.
Well, that's why I saved it for this forum.
My wife, she thinks it's funny that I know all this stuff. It's like, well, I collect, so I'd like to know prices on things before. If I go find something out somewhere, I don't want to flip my phone up and try to look up prices. So I try to keep a good running knowledge, at least of the games that I'm interested in.
You got a Rolodex of that shit, dude.
I do. It's fun. It's a hobby. Other than that, man, that's really all I've been playing. A lot of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I think I went through the past 2 weeks. I played any time that I played at night, besides that night that I played Fractured Butthole, I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I just got really engrossed in the story and I want to finish it. So that's all I've been doing.
In the time that I haven't been playing PUBG, I actually did go back and commit to Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't tend to commit to games either.
No, you don't.
But I committed to it with Malone. He learned some of the controls and we were taking turns beating up bad guys.
Yeah.
And he loved it. Ratchet and Quink.
Oh, yeah.
Quink. We got about 96% of the way through.
Wow.
And we were playing like a completion run. Like
that's
finding all the bolts, all the cards.
Did you do the jetpack stage yet?
Yeah.
Did you get all the, what were they? You have to fly around and get all these bolts. I think, not the golden bolts, but there's something else in that level, and I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank right now, but you fly around and you have to collect all these things, and you have to give the brains.
Yeah. That's
the brains. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And you got to give them to the guy.
Yeah.
And I went through that whole level and collected all the brains before I went on to the next level. Yes. I just couldn't. My
couldn't not do it.
Yeah, right.
Malone wanted to turn, and I went to the bathroom. And there had been a couple of times that, I'd kind of left him to it. Like I'd be in an area with a bunch of bad guys and I'd die and be like, all right, your turn, hand it over to him, expecting him to die a few times and get frustrated. And he'd just go swing his shit through there, and, beat his way through. So I went to the bathroom and I came back out to the opening cutscene.
Did he erase your save?
Yeah. He backed out of the game and started a new one while I was in the bathroom.
So, were you able to get it back?
No.
Oh man, that's the worst.
Yeah, it even gives like a warning, like he's at the door right now.
Yeah.
It gives a warning that it's like if you start this new game, it'll overwrite all of your save data. So
that's horrible, man.
And I was like, dude, Malone, you erased our game. And he goes, hey, can you help me put this plane back together? So he just didn't give a shit. He was still playing, But it kind of took the wind out of my sails.
Me too. I wouldn't go back after that.
It's like the first time I played through Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
I was on the final level before battling Sephiroth, and my data got corrupted.
Ooh.
And it took me 2 years to gather up the nerve to start that game over.
I wouldn't have done it. I would just left it at that.
I feel like that's probably something I should have told you whenever we were talking about Kingdom Hearts a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
Is that my first playthrough was marred by PlayStation 2's faulty memory.
That sucks. I don't think I've ever had a faulty memory problem back then, but I did have instances where my brother would erase my save or something like that to clear room for his save.
What a dick.
Yeah. Kids, man. Did that level though, that jetpack level, that is probably the closest that I've ever seen for 3D platformer being open world.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I liked it. It was a break from the rest of the game. That game is generally kind of open world anyway. I mean, you have set paths.
You got a lot of options.
There's options.
To get from point A to point B, you can take a lot of different paths.
Right. But this one, because you're on a jetpack, they give you this big world and say, go collect these brains.
And it was cool.
And you go wherever you want. And it was cool. I mean, you are limited by the amount of fuel that you have. So you have to judge where you need to land to get to refill your jetpack.
Try to find those high points and plan out where the next jetpack station is.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was cool.
That was a memorable level. That's ones that's going to stick with me. Like I couldn't remember much about the rest of the levels, but that one for sure will stick with me.
As much fun as I was having in the game, that level was the most fun I had in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I at least got to do that level before the Wrath of Malone.
Yeah. Well, you experienced the best. It only goes downhill from there.
Before Fat Big came in stomping on our progress.
Well, at least you didn't get to the final boss, because that is infuriating. So I think you saw...
I saw what the game had to offer. I got the point.
You got it. Yeah, I agree. On that same note, I mean, last week we were talking about 3D platformers making a comeback and how excited we were about that.
Yeah.
They just announced this past week that they're re-releasing the
Spyro.
Dude, Spyro Trilogy remastered.
Oh my God.
And it looks amazing. The graphics in the trailers that they showed.
I haven't even looked yet. I just read about it.
So they only had like one trailer, and it was enough to sell me on it. I was never a big Spyro fan when I was younger. That came at a time when I was still seeking more realistic style games.
Right,
I was older.
More open world as that was starting to mature.
The kiddie games were kind of like, I viewed that as a kiddie game, so I didn't play it. But I did rent it. I do remember renting the first Spyro, and it really didn't strike a note with me. I've since then gone back and played it again, and I had a better experience with it as an adult going back with fresh eyes.
Right.
I enjoyed what I played, but seeing the dragons and how blocky and they look weird, dude. They look like big sloths. They don't look like dragons at all.
Which at the time though, they looked fucking fantastic.
To me, they didn't. They didn't
good
look good
at the time. They didn't.
Well, to me, I was older than you when that game came out.
Yeah,
so
you're not now, but you were then.
it to me, looking at that game is like, yeah, there were better looking games.
Well,
I thought at that time. So when I looked at these dragons, and even now today, I remember thinking that they looked weird. But when I saw this trailer and they were showing the dragons, they look like dragons now, and I'm like, that looks awesome. I want to play this.
I got to see these trailers.
Even with going back and replaying it again, the original PS1 version, I got back into it to a point, and the polygonal 3D graphics, although they don't bother me that much, it kind of bothered me in this game, so I couldn't complete it. So I'm excited to go back and play it. Same thing with Crash. Crash didn't really strike me originally, but when I went back and played the remastered version, I loved it. And I think the same thing is going to happen with this.
I'm also kind of wondering with all of this, I mean, they didn't remaster Ratchet and Clank, but they put out a new one.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're going to put out any more Ratchet and Clank.
I don't know. I think it's more dependent upon how well that game sold.
Right.
And I don't know.
And like I said last time, I am wholly in the camp to see them bring back in some capacity Jak and Daxter.
At this point, dude, I really think it's a strong possibility.
I read that a trilogy remaster was slated for late 2018.
Yeah.
For Jak and Daxter. I'd like to see a new Jak and Daxter, like a modern one like they just did with Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
But I'd also play the shit out of a remastered trilogy if they actually did drop it, you know.
I would too.
Oh man, I'd be so there.
It's amazing to me, you know, kind of leeching off of what we talked about last week, the resurgence of 3D platformers is super exciting, and I think it's striking a chord with people, and I'm seeing that these games are selling really well.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot more of these in the future.
It's because these are the games that never left people. Right. You know, those of us that grew up on that stuff and then had to leave it behind as it got outdated and the newer, better, shinier shit came up. Those are still the characters that, you know, whenever we'd go to GameStop, you know, yeah, of course I'll buy that figure of Jak and Daxter. Of course I'll buy that Ratchet and Clank t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or, you know, those were the guys that stuck with us. Crash Bandicoot had been out of play and off the market longer than he ever was on the market, but was still so iconic that he's been that franchise has been selling merchandise this whole time, regardless.
They have been releasing Crash games. They just have not been very good. I don't know if the marketing has been poor on them, but they had
right. But I'm saying like his market share depleted, you know, basically like his cornering of that platformer market peaked back then. And even if they, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Like even if they were releasing shit, he wasn't really around, you know?
Yeah. They had a 360 version that I remember seeing as like, yeah, I'm not interested. they tried to reinvent the character in different ways that wasn't working. You know, they had one where he was riding on top of beasts and stuff. It's like, no, that's not Crash. I'm sorry.
No.
This remaster is Crash, and I will play that, and that's awesome. I would like to see more continuations like the Ratchet and Clank versus the remasters. I'm hoping these remasters start making developers think, hey, Crash Bandicoot sold really well. Let's go ahead and make a proper, in that vein, sequel.
And maybe that's exactly what they're doing, is just testing the waters. Seeing if the audience and the players like resonate with it the way it did before.
Yeah, right.
You know, and you know, they put out these remasters of like the Insane trilogy, and it sells like a fucking crazy lot of them, and they're like, okay, well, people are still tuned into Crash, so let's put out a new one. You know,
it's so well that they're moving it to the Switch. That's crazy to me. Seeing Crash on the Switch, it's a PlayStation character, even though Sony doesn't own the rights to Crash, but it's still weird to me.
But I think it'll be perfectly at home on the Switch.
Oh, definitely. It's a perfect game for that.
It'll play like a dream.
Yeah, it will. So, dude, switching gears here just a little bit. Toys R Us.
Don't talk about it.
Dude,
don't talk about it. We managed to not talk about it last time.
We didn't. And the thing is I do want to talk about it because I'm not going to go down the same path that a lot of other YouTubers and stuff going, kind of reminiscing. I am going to reminisce, but I'm going to reminisce a little differently. Toys R Us is one of those childhood memories of mine. It was very important. My grandparents would take me there, and I would go and pick out toys and whatever I want, and they would buy me whatever I want, basically. And I remember when I turned like 5, I got birthday money, and what I wanted to do with that money was go to Toys R Us and buy Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. Instead, I ended up buying Little Nemo and another game called Werewolf. And
you know what? I think you told me that story.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
we talked about Little Nemo, one of our first episodes.
So that story still, I mean, there's not a lot of things that I can recall from that early in my childhood, but that's one of them. And I remember going to Toys R Us to pick it up, and I had to go to Toys R Us. I had to shop. And I remember going there to get Ninja Turtles and seeing all these other games. I was like, well, I have this much money. I could get 2 games instead of this 1 game. And that's what I ended up doing. Yeah. I'm glad I did, actually. Because
absolutely.
I was happy with the choices I made. But on top of that, as I got older and in my teenage years, I was working for my neighbor as a ranch hand, cattle hand. And it was hard work. And I got paid well, decently enough, but it was something I wanted to get out of. It's like, if I'm going to work and make money, and I want to go somewhere that I enjoy instead of doing this job that is laborious and hard, and I hated it. So when I turned 16, I decided that if I'm going to work anywhere, it's going to be at Toys R Us. So I went and put my application in. That was the first and only place I put my application in. Got a call back from the Kids R Us portion of Toys R Us. And real sweet lady, and I remember her. She was my boss then, really, really nice. And she called and said, "Hey, I see your application here, and we'd like to hire you on, but we're the Kids R Us, which is the clothing section of Toys R Us.
Right.
Would you still be interested in the job?" And I was like, "Well, I'm still at Toys R Us. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll take it." So I went in there and interviewed and got the job, and it was a boring job. But I still was able to, the way the stores used to be set up, the clothing section was like almost completely separate from the rest of the store.
I think it was, last time I went to a Toys R Us, it was still kind of that way.
Yeah.
Like you had all your toys and games and yada, yada, yada. And then like the back corner, like the back 1/6 of the store was clothes.
Right. When I was there, it was like, I would say a quarter of the store was closed.
Oh, wow. All right.
It was a significant portion of the store. So, but the clothing section was right next to the video game section, which is where I wanted to be anyway. So I went in there and I would tag clothes and mark them down, put them on clearance, help customers with buying baby clothes, even though I knew nothing about clothes. I ended up knowing more about clothing, kids' clothing, when I left there, and sizes and everything, than I ever thought I would have. It was crazy.
You're like, fuck games. I'm going into kids' clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, you want to, how old's your toddler? He's 3? He's probably going to be in a 3 or 2. Actually, no, he's probably a 2T. He's pretty small.
Look at those stubby little chubsticks. Put them in these short ass pants.
Exactly, dude. I got good at it. So I would wander over into the video game section on my breaks and stuff, and they had at that time.
I'm gonna be honest. If I had the same job, I wouldn't have waited till my break to wander over into the games. But you've worked with me before. You know, concentration and I are not necessarily friends.
Well, I'm always I want to do a good job at whatever I do, and I know that if I was to wander over there, it would not make my manager, who was a sweet lady, I didn't want to upset her. She wouldn't get mad at me or anything like that. I know she wouldn't, but I didn't want to upset her.
It's like our old boss never really got upset at me. It was more like, come on, let's get back to work.
She was very similar to that. Yes, that's funny. Yeah, she's almost to a T identical in a lot of ways.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I would wander over there and play, and at that time I was working. Started working there in 98-ish. Gosh, I don't remember. I want to say like 98, 99. No, it was 99. I worked there from 98 or 99 through 2001. So I was there for the launch of the Dreamcast and also the PS2 launch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I was there, games were being marked down that from the older consoles. So I bought a lot of my collection, my Dreamcast collection, when I worked at Toys R Us. Most of those games I bought for $5, you know, some really good solid titles for $5 because they were clearancing the Dreamcast out to make way for the Xbox, the PS2.
Right.
Stuff that was coming in. That was really cool. There was Pokemon was really, really big back then. It still is. I say back then, but the card game was huge.
I gotta be honest though. I never recovered from being pissed off that there's now more than 150. That was part of the fucking pitch. That there was 150. Now it is impossible to have all impossible to have all the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Or to know them.
Yeah, if you
knew them all. I knew those motherfuckers like the periodic table.
Did you ever go to Toys R Us to play the card game?
No. I was not allowed to have the cards when I was a kid.
Oh, gambling.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
My elementary school playground was not unlike Compton when it came to Pokemon cards, and we had a bunch of gangsta ass elementary school kids like full on waging physical war with each other on the playground over Pokemon and Yomegas.
Well, I've never even heard of a Yomega.
It was a yo-yo with ball bearings inside, and they were touted to like spin forever, you know?
Oh, yeah.
They were like perfectly balanced. They were cool. I had a couple of those.
Yeah. I didn't know they had a name. I just called them yo-yos.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Pokemon cards, they ended up getting banned from my elementary school.
Yeah.
So then we had to move to like black market trading. Yeah. I had a Sammy Sosa rookie card that I think would probably be worth some money now. Maybe.
Yeah.
That I traded for like a Pokemon starter deck that one of my friends had because I wanted it to be a secret that I had it. So I took my most valuable baseball card that I could think of and traded it for this starter pack. I've probably still got it somewhere.
Probably. You've been pulling out random stuff that...
I've been going through all kinds of old shit.
Yeah.
And finding all kinds of stuff that I didn't realize I still had.
You know, that's always cool to find something.
The museum of my life, you know?
They had Pokemon tournaments every Saturday morning, and we would have lines of kids coming in wanting to play Pokemon. And there was a guy that worked there at Toys R Us. There was a couple guys actually and they headed up the Pokemon tournament. And to me, those guys were super cool. Those were the guys that I wanted to hang out with. They were probably, I don't know, 10 years older than me or so.
But they worked there, up to them. And they got to run the Pokemon tournament?
They ran the Pokemon tournament. They got to work. They were basically the managers of the toy section.
Yeah, those are some badass pajamas, dude.
I guarantee. At that time, I was 16. I'm like, you guys are living the dream. You're doing what I want to do. You know,
it's like when I was 20 working in a brewery. I wanted to hang out with the brewers.
Exactly. Same thing.
They were doing the shit I wanted to do.
It's like you guys are making these Pokemon tournaments happen, and you're hanging out with these kids and stuff. I wasn't into the Pokemon card scene. I was into the games into the show, but I never played the
But they made it look cool.
They did make it look cool.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I always got little pins
that.
and stuff. Like the winners of the tournaments would get badges, the Pokemon badges.
Yeah.
And they were little pins that you could stick on your shirt. I got all of those badges just because I worked there and because I made friends with these guys, and they say, "Hey, you want the badge for this week?" Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
So I got all of those, and then
do you still have them?
I think so. Yeah, I need to go try to dig.
We
got to
go through your stuff.
I got rid of a lot of stuff. I've got 2 tubs out into the garage that have some stuff that I still have. Like a lot of my Toys R Us stuff is still. I'm pretty sure I still have most of it. It was an amazing job, dude. I loved it. There were so many memories that I had back then. There's some other things like Christmas time at Toys R Us was insane. I would get there on Black Friday. We would have to come in, like, I can't remember, the stores open at like midnight or first thing in the morning. It's been a while, but I would have to get there, fight the crowds of people outside the building
just to go and
clock in. Yeah. And it was funny though, because they would all come in and walk right past me and go straight to the toys. Nobody wanted to close. So I got off easy, not having to working in the Kids R Us section. I didn't have to deal with all the crazy people.
Because I'll tell you, working Christmases at the outlet mall when I was managing for Levi's.
It's nuts.
Motherfuckers love pants, dude.
When they show get their deals,
when they show up at Levi's, they're not passing me by for anything. They want some pants. They're there for some denim trousers.
It was the same way, but at that time it was Elmo, and it wasn't the Tickle Me Elmo.
Shit, just Elmo.
It was like a dancing Elmo or something. I don't remember, but it was like a next iteration of the Tickle Me Elmo.
After the Tickle Me Elmo?
Yeah.
Man, I remember the Tickle Me Elmo. Everybody remembers the Tickle Me Elmo Christmas.
Well, and they still had the Tickle Me Elmos, and those were still popular, but it was the new Elmo that took over. People were pushing each other down and fighting over these Elmos, man. It was insane.
Well, that's because their kid wants that Elmo.
I never got it. I never understood it then. I still don't understand it now.
You know, it's funny. The Tickle Me Elmo Christmas that everybody knows.
Yeah.
When Tickle Me Elmo first dropped, it was either my grandma or my mom, I think, was out Christmas shopping early and ran across one and was like, well, this is kind of funny. And my younger brother Chase he was little at that point. And they picked one up for Chase just on a whim, like, well, we'll get him this for Christmas. He's into Sesame Street, you know?
Right.
And then it ended up being like this fucking Armageddon-inducing item that no one in my family knew was going to happen, but we already had our hands on one because someone had bought one on a whim when it first came out before everybody, like, caught the fanfare. So we didn't have to sweat that. There was already one hiding in mom's closet.
I would have just sold the damn thing and bought him more stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
But no, he loved the thing. He was attached to it.
Okay.
It's still at my parents' house somewhere.
Well, we had extended hours then during Christmas time, which was always cool because usually we'd close at 9. It was open till midnight around Christmas. And Christmas seemed to be the lifeblood of Toys R Us. When Christmas was over, the store slowed down tremendously.
Oh, sure.
That's why it kind of blows me away, honestly, that Toys R Us lasted as long as it did. Because back then, I knew that it wasn't going to last that long. It survived through Christmas and Christmas alone. I always wondered, how in the hell does this company make money outside of Christmas time? I would come into work most days and, I would have a few people come in, but most of my time was spent pricing or marking items down that didn't sell, or back in the stockroom marking items down that didn't sell. And that stockroom was freaking cool, man. It was a multi-tiered stockroom where we keep clothes on I would say 5 different levels. And so I'd have this big tall ladder and be up at the top marking stuff down on the 5th level of clothing. I always loved it. It was just cool. Fun to me. Yeah. And I would bring my CD disc player with me, have my headphones on back there. Dude, I love that stuff. And I would have it strapped to my belt and just hanging down. And
it's like when I worked stock at Party Galaxy.
Did you have one of those too?
I had one of those big multi-tier, tall ass, warehouse style stock rooms. And me and my buddy Dustin, Admiral Dammit was his name.
Yeah.
I was Captain Panache. He was Admiral Dammit. We had a motorcycle fleet actually called the Murder Fleet. A motorcycle gang. I was the only one in the gang that actually had a motorcycle, and it was a 93 Buick Century.
Nice.
But we would hide like beers and stuff up there and drink and take naps.
Drink beers while up on a high stocking area. That sounds real
it was a college job.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like I really think that I always knew that Toys R Us was gonna go under.
Right.
Even then, I just knew it would. I am so completely blown away that it's taken this long. Because it's just, when do you go out and buy toys? How often do you go to Toys R Us when it's not Christmas time?
I've been to Toys R Us 3 times ever.
Okay, so I mean,
we don't have one close to our house. If we're gonna go buy like a toy, or I'm looking for a game or a movie or clothes for the kids or anything, it's like Walmart, Target. We have a Best Buy relatively close, a vintage stock.
All those places are close by. You have to kind of make a trip to go to Toys R Us.
I mean, there's a Toys R Us up by where I work, but it's not open before work. And by the time I'm off work, I'm ready to get the fuck out of the city.
True.
And that's the one I worked at. So
that's the one I worked at, and I loved it there. It was fun, but
I read a few weeks ago that was one of the ones that was that not all of them were closing.
Right.
That was one that was confirmed was going to stay open, and now it's closing.
Right. So they were only going to close a few select stores, and then since then they've decided that they're closing all of the stores. So Toys R Us is going bye-bye. No more Toys R Us.
I mean, that's really just so kind of heartbreaking.
It is.
End of a real era. An era that nobody gave a shit about, like 50 out of 52 weeks out of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically.
But those 2 weeks of the year, that might as well have been the motherfucking North Pole.
Well,
this is an F-bomb laden episode.
The thing is I still took my kids there. My kids enjoyed and got to experience Toys R Us before they're gone.
I've never taken. Wait, I think I've taken Fat Big to Toys R Us once.
Really?
Tilly will never know that it existed. Right.
Yeah, I've taken them there on birthdays or something, or if they got money for Christmas or whatever, I'd take them there and let them pick out their toys. The other big problem with Toys R Us, and this was always the case, their prices are not that great. Unless you can find something on clearance, you can find it cheaper almost anywhere else.
Right.
So I did get a lot when things did go on clearance though, I would get really, really great deals, like those games that I got back in the day.
Yeah.
I went there a few years ago, and they were clearancing out after Christmas. It was always after Christmas. That's the best time to go to Toys R Us if you want a good deal. They had a bunch of figures that I wanted. Like they had a Ratchet and Clank figure, and they had some Left 4 Dead figures and stuff that were marked down to like less than $1. I couldn't believe it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so I bought them all up. Actually, recently, excuse me, sorry. Recently I went there and they were clearancing out their Skylanders toys. So I bought like $30 worth of Skylanders at $1 a piece.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude, I went kind of overboard. I just like, kids pick out a Skylander and they pick one out, and I'm like, no, like
pick some Skylanders.
Pick some Skylanders. We'll buy them all. I mean, I think we literally did buy every version of Skylander that they had.
I'm intrigued with knowing more about the Skylanders thing, but I don't know anything about it.
It's a fun game that I used to play with my kids a lot. It's not a thing anymore. Obviously, they've killed off the franchise, but
I think it still has support.
Does it? I don't know.
I think so.
It's a game that's still fun to play with kids because you get to take the little toys and place them on the disc or on the platform and have them pop up, and that's your character.
Because I was listening to another podcast yesterday, and they were talking specifically about going and buying up all the Skylanders from their local Toys R Us. And then they started talking about how much longer they think they'll be running support for the game.
You ought to see my kids' collection of Skylanders. Dude.
I can almost bet I will see it before I leave here tonight.
You will see it. It's up in the closet. I gotta show it to you. We have so many Skylanders. It's crazy. But we have fun with it. We did.
Well, sure.
It's a great game.
It's a good memory. And, they're decent little figures that they can still play with, Yeah,
so. And each game had different things. Like they had the race car ones, and they had Swap Force where you could change out legs and bodies and stuff. So it was cool. So sad song for Toys R Us. I'm gonna miss you. It was a great time. I'm not super sad about it or anything. It's something I always knew was coming, but it's still sad. It's a bittersweet moment. Dude, we are going to do another top 5 this week because the top 5 last week was fun and I want to do it again.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. We got some decent feedback from the fact that we even did those top 5s last episode.
Right.
So, what was your idea this week for the new top 5?
This week we're doing the top 5 retro games that have not stood the test of time. Complete opposite of what we did last time. And my thought process on this is games that maybe we loved as a kid, not necessarily popular games or anything, but games that you and I played as a kid and that we loved and maybe gone back to it semi-recently and thought, whoa, this game was better left in the past.
Right, maybe it was just a better memory than an actual game.
Exactly.
You know, trigger warning. I think we've got a couple in here that people are going to vehemently disagree with.
Yeah, I think so. Especially in my list, I do have a few. And that's okay. This is our list. This is
our list.
It's a personal list. So
to the games that actually suck.
Number 5. Why don't you take it away?
My number 5 game I super loved. I was obsessed with it when I was a kid. Jet Force Gemini. You ever played that one?
I have recently.
And on N64?
Yes. Yeah. No, actually, I played it on... they had the Rare Replay on Xbox One, and that was one of the games on
Did they remaster any of those games for the Rare Replay, or did they just slap them on there and throw them out?
No, they didn't remaster them. They did up-res them. That's about it.
You said that was Xbox One. That was an exclusive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Rare is owned by Xbox.
Yeah, but whatever.
Microsoft.
Fuck you, Microsoft.
So I never played it.
They sponsor us too. I'm kidding.
That would be awesome.
Not sponsored. Just Big Gaming. Not sponsored by Microsoft or Xbox One.
It's true. Jet Force Gemini is one that I remember when it was out, but I didn't own an N64, so I never played it. Yeah. I was limited to the games that a friend of mine had.
I got it when it was new. Actually, I had a different game. I don't remember what the game was. I got a game for Christmas that I didn't like. And my buddy got Jet Force Gemini for Christmas, and he didn't like it. And we got the games that the other guy wanted.
Oh, wow.
So we traded.
Nice.
Yeah. I loved that game.
Yeah.
It was like a space type intergalactic shooter.
Right.
And you could upgrade your gun. It was a platformer.
Yeah.
And you could upgrade your guns and, get your armor upgrades and all that. And you were fighting against this alien race that was like ants. And they were trying to take over.
Mm-hmm.
Like ants, like ants. ANTS. Not like your mother's sister. Shows up in a floral robe with curlers in her hair.
Thanks for clearing that up for me.
I live in your room now. And then you shoot her. That's why it's called a shooter. So, yeah, it was cool. I loved it. The main character's name, I can't remember his name. Juno, that was his name.
Oh, wow.
And
why don't you like it now? What doesn't hold up?
It seemed so fluid and beautiful and fast paced when I was a kid. And it is choppy.
Yeah.
And a little sketchy and rough and very slow paced.
The speed is one of those things that you don't realize until later.
It's a very slow paced game. When I was a kid and I was like, oh man, I'm getting overtaken by these ants.
Yeah.
There are so many for me to shoot, and I don't know if I have time to target all of them. Last time I picked it up and played, I was like, are there going to be more than 6 of you? Or is this the whole level?
Yeah.
And the landscapes, are relatively barren. There's not a whole lot of interactivity in the actual level design. It's all pretty straightforward. Honestly, I know I've said this before about a lot of these kind of older games. It would probably translate well to a mobile game. You know?
Sure.
Like just a click and shoot type mobile game, like for a casual player.
A shooting platformer pre Ratchet and Clank, it was okay. I mean,
I'll say it laid some groundwork.
Yeah.
And it did it effectively at the time, but it did not age well.
No.
No.
I can agree with you, Derek. having only recently experienced the game,
Yeah.
I didn't give it much time before I was like, yeah, the controls are janky and it's not working for me, you know?
Yeah. What about you? Number 5.
Number 5 for me is a Sega Genesis game called Predator 2.
Predator 2, as in like the movies?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, the Sam's Club that we used to go to had a setup where they had a TV with a Sega Genesis and you could play it, and they had Mario World for a while, and then they changed it to Predator 2. Or no, I'm sorry, not Mario. Sega. It was Sonic. They had Sonic on there for a while, and then they changed it to Predator 2. Predator 2, when I saw it for the first time, blew my freaking kid mind, man. I had never seen a game as violent as this one at this point in time.
Yeah.
You walk around the streets, it's a top view game, and you're walking around the streets killing all these drug addicts or drug dealers, because every time you kill a drug dealer, you go run by where he died and pick up a piece of drug paraphernalia, and that's how you get points.
Which is so fucking
it's
silly.
so weird. It's so weird.
Let's take an alien creature.
Yeah.
And just, there was a bad guy in the movies and make him clean up the streets.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a bizarre premise.
You play as a cop. You play as a cop trying to kill all the drug dealers.
Oh, is that right?
So
I obviously know infinitely less than you.
The funny
about this
thing
game.
is for a game that's based off of Predator 2, the Predator is only in it a little bit. Like, it's like the old Friday the 13th game where Jason's just barely in that game.
Right.
There's points. You have to rescue hostages too. And there's the 3 lights that come from his gun or whatever. And those 3 lights are moving across the map. And if they land on one of the prisoners, he'll blow them up, and they blow up into all these little body parts and stuff. So you have to go try to rescue him before he gets to him. And then later on in the game, you do actually fight the Predator, and it's weird. And the thing that stuck out to me about that game was the violence. It was kind of creepy to me. Had a creepy vibe, and I just couldn't believe that I was seeing all these body parts explode.
Oh yeah.
I came from an NES era, like you didn't see stuff like that. And the graphics are just blowing me away. I played that game again recently to try to relive those memories, and
didn't land for you.
Oh man, it didn't. The sound effects and everything came back to me immediately, and I'm like, wow, dude, I remember this. This is so cool. This game sucks. I'm not having fun with this at all. This is not like I remember it. I did play quite a ways through it before I quit, and I'm like, that game was best left in my mind of how violent and everything I remembered it being. It should have just stayed that way. So, number 5, Predator 2. What's your number 4?
Enter the Matrix on Xbox.
I would like to hear some reasoning behind this, because I'm conflicted on it.
Okay, I played it initially when it came out on PS2.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, did I play that game.
Were you just big into the Matrix at that time?
Oh yeah.
Everybody was.
Yeah, I was about the Matrix. I loved it.
Yeah.
I take to things like that though, like the Matrix, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. I'm of course I do. You do too.
Yeah.
Don't try to act like you're cool and judgmental over there, Adrian.
No, I love the Matrix. Don't get me wrong.
So yeah,
it's that specific game that I don't.
And
love.
I was so freaking jazzed when that game came out. I was about it, you know. And then I had to talk to my parents, and my mom was like, "I don't want you playing this violent stuff." And my dad's like, "That looks fucking cool." So we picked it up and played through it in a weekend, and then Dad bought it. And I played through it several times.
Wow.
Like every way that you could play through and beat that game, I attempted to play through and beat it that way.
Wow.
Then I got my Xbox, my OG Xbox, however many, probably 7 or 8 years ago. My brother got it for me for Christmas with like 4 controllers and probably like 30 or 40 games. He had bought an entire collection off of one of his friends. Did I say bought? He had bought an entire collection off of one of his friends.
That's what I heard.
And it was in there. Enter the Matrix was. And I plugged it in. I hadn't played through all these games, yet. And every now and again, I pull that Xbox out and I try to cycle through another game or two.
Right.
And I pulled out Enter the Matrix and was like, you know what? I'm about to fuck this game up. And I plugged it in and I was like, no, I'm not. I played for about half an hour and was like, this is hot garbage.
Yeah.
I am not having a good time right now. Those controls are janky as hell.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
The wheels clean fell off that shit and nobody put them back on.
I think that you were maybe blinded by the excitement that was the Matrix.
I was blinded by fantastic marketing is what I was blinded by, you know.
That game was shit. It was always shit. And that's
and
why I
at
think
the
it's funny
time
that you loved it.
when it came out, dude, I could not have loved that game more.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's good thing to have, like, to make sure that it's still nostalgic to you, but it's better left in your memory.
Exactly. Yeah. Bury that motherfucker. It was bad this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 4 is Star Wars Shadows of the Empire on the N64. That game, when it came out, Star Wars was huge for me. Huge. Like, I couldn't love. That was the peak of my Star Wars love.
That was kind of the beginning of my Star Wars love.
Yeah. It was so ingrained in me to love that franchise.
Which also, wait, I was about to high five you for mentioning that game because that game was the jam, dude.
It was awesome. Yes, it was totally awesome. There was a part when you first start the game, you're flying around in your ship in Hoth trying to take down the AT-ATs and the AT-STs. Dude, that stuff was fun, man, and I loved it. And I
felt like you were actually doing it.
And I would go over to my friend's house just to play that game, and I would play the heck out of it. And it was hard. I remember it being really, really hard. I could never get past the Hoth level, but my buddy could. He made it to like Boba Fett, and Boba Fett was the one that gave him a hard time. And Boba Fett was hard. I would watch him play, and he would get cheap deaths every time. And and Dash Rendar, the main character in that game, I thought he was just super cool.
He was way
like,
cool.
He was like the secondary Hoth or Han Solo to me, you know, like that cool bounty hunter. So I recently picked that game up. See, I never owned that game. So when I bought an N64 not too many years ago, that was one of the absolute I have to have games. Got it, plugged it in, started playing it. Immediately started having fun with the AT-AT parts or the Hoth planet part, and I'm like, yeah, this is still cool. I'm still enjoying this.
Right.
It's not great, but then when they put you in Dash Randar's shoes and it becomes a third-person shooter, that's when the game really goes downhill. The controls were shit. The aiming was hard. The game was just hard overall. The graphics weren't as good as I had remembered them. Everything about it was just, it's like, man, this should have been left in my memory, you know?
Right.
It's not
should have buried it.
You forget how much your kid imagination makes up for the lack of
I'm going to be honest,
power.
A lot of those old Star Wars games were near and dear to my heart and actually kind of sucked.
Yeah.
A lot of
them did, yeah. I mean, there was very few good ones. But yeah, that one sadly disappointed me and does not hold up.
Donkey Kong 64.
Is your number 3?
Yep.
Donkey Kong 64 is one that I don't have much experience with. I played it recently, but I can agree with you on what I played recently.
I blew through that game when it came out. Yeah. I went nuts for that game.
Yeah.
I mean, all these games, like, they were some of my favorites, and my brother had it. It was in some of those 64 games that had disappeared. He had that one in his possession, and Banjo-Kazooie. And I plugged it in, got real excited. And it's honestly kind of on the annoying side. The game itself is.
Yeah.
You know,
I could get with you on that.
Yeah. Honestly, like the music and stuff of it was enough for me to just be like, you know, the controls aren't great. The music kind of sucks. The level design is okay. The level design, as far as a platformer goes, kind of held up. The level design did. But overall, it's just, I mean, I can't even really talk about it any deeper than that. It's just not a great game now.
Yeah, I agree. My recent experience with it, having never played it before, I played just a little bit and got frustrated with the controls, frustrated with not knowing where the hell I was supposed to go, and immediately just stopped. It seemed like another one of those 2D games that was a great 2D game, didn't make the 3D jump very well.
Exactly.
My number 3 is Twisted Metal.
Didn't like it when it was new.
Really?
Didn't like it.
Dude, I loved that game.
Never liked that game. Never liked the series.
Twisted Metal was one of the first games I got with my PlayStation.
Yeah.
And it was one that, because it was like one of the only games I had at the time, I just played the hell out of it. And my brother and I would play split screen and try to get through the entire story mode. And the thing that was cool to me was the variety in the cars, the variety in the weapons, seeing the movie sequences and seeing your characters. Like they use actual live actors for the characters, which was cool. That was a new thing then. And it was kind of just like a twisted type of game, hence the name, the Calypso, putting together this contest for people to come in, drive their cars and kill each other. It's like it's extreme destruction derby,
Right.
It was a game that I loved and I played the shit out of, and I played the shit out of all 2. I skipped 3 and 4, picked up Black and played the crap out of that. And then they made a sequel not too long ago on the PS3. And that's when I realized, oh, hey, Twisted Metal isn't as good as I remembered it being. I played through that game and it's like, this isn't fun. So I went back and played some of the older games again and had the same reaction. It's like, the gameplay is hard. The controls are stiff. It's not as good and fluid as I remember. So doesn't hold up to me.
No, which makes sense because, like I said, I didn't like it to begin with. You were wrong to have liked it.
I was right. I was the PlayStation guy. You were the Nintendo guy.
That's true.
Yeah. I took what I could get.
My number 2 is an original Game Boy game.
Yeah.
Called Duck Dodgers. And it was a Daffy Duck game.
I'm familiar with the cartoon.
Yeah, Duck Dodgers. It was a game about the cartoon, and you're in space. It was a little 2D side scroller shooty shoot game.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It's not a bad game now. Don't get me wrong. It's still entertaining enough to sit down and turn on the Game Boy and play for 5 or 10 minutes.
Is it a side scroller, 2D side scroller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, by that merit alone, you get what you get. You know what you're signing up for when you turn on an old school 2D side scroller.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting an old school 2D side scroller. But against the other 2D side scrollers of the time, there wasn't shit to do in this game. And it'd be like you'd get to the edge of it, like a cliff at the edge of a level, and you can't jump far enough. You don't have the right jetpack. You can't shoot your way across. Like there were points there was actually a specific point in the game that I remember that's as far as I ever made it because I couldn't figure out how to bridge this freaking gap. And the game itself, like going back and trying to play it now. Sit down and play for 5 or 10 minutes like you would a cell phone game or like you would scroll through Instagram or something like that. Keep it by your toilet and turn it on. Fine. I've played it a couple times here and there, just a smattering of, sit down casual sessions with it. But there's not shit to do in it other than run, jump, and shoot. And maybe the simplicity is where the charm lies, but the truth of the matter is it's kind of boring.
Well, I can get with
I didn't
you
mean
there.
to get wound up. I started to sound angry there, but
a lot of those games based off of movies and shows, like hence like Predator 2, they just weren't
it's just a franchising thing.
Yeah.
They make the show to sell toys to make the show.
That's right.
Yeah. That's it.
Live off the popularity. Enter the Matrix, same situation. Okay, so we're going to get into the kind of the more controversial games here with our number 1 and number 2. Or my number 2 and our number 1, which is the same. So my number 2 is the original Final Fantasy and like the original Dragon Quest. Those original RPGs on the NES. Now, those laid the groundwork for the games that were to come, and there were some awesome, great games to come after that. And those games wouldn't be here without these games starting it. But the thing is try go back and playing them now. They're so grind heavy. They're so slow. They're so difficult.
Yeah.
When I got my NES Classic, it had Final Fantasy on there. I plugged it in and my daughter really, really wanted to play it. It was something she knew that was special to me, the Final Fantasy series. So she wanted to play it. So I put it in, let her play it. Bless her heart, she stuck it out for a while before she gave up. She was having a hard time with it. She didn't realize that you had to go buy your weapons and your potions and stuff and equip your weapons before you head out into the field, because otherwise you're going out there naked and you're going to die really quick.
Right.
So I let her play on her own for a little bit before I explained to her what she needed to do. But then after I explained to her what she needed to do, she would go out and every 2 steps was a random battle. And then you're fighting again. And she stuck it out for a good long while. She did level up a little bit. And then she was like, okay, I've had enough. And I'm like, you lasted way longer than I thought you
Church,
would.
sister.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't blame you. This game does not hold up. And, you know, people may disagree. I will say it's an important game. It's just not as good today.
Yeah. Should we do it?
Let's do it. Our number 1. And honestly, I don't think we're going to have a lot of people disagree with us.
We may not have a lot of blowback on this, but at the same rate, I personally have friends that are going to call me whenever they hear this. They're going to call me with a problem.
Okay. What is it?
GoldenEye N64.
That's right. It is GoldenEye. GoldenEye is...
Sorry, Mr. Bond.
GoldenEye, man. That was such a fantastic game back then. It really was.
There's a reason games get better.
Yes.
And there's a reason that there have been better 007 games since.
Have there? Well...
Hell yeah, dude.
I think
PS2, Nightfire.
Okay.
Best James Bond game. Best 007 game. Best multiplayer battle of any of the games that have ever come out.
My James Bond experience begins and ends with GoldenEye, so I don't know.
Okay. We're going to play Nightfire. I'm tempted to end the episode now just to play Nightfire
Even
multiplayer.
though I have the damn game.
Well, yeah, you've got it up there. You may not own it much longer, if we're being honest.
I've never played it.
It may disappear with me. I've got the PS2 hooked up in Fat Big's room right now.
GoldenEye is one of those games that it was groundbreaking because it was one of the first first-person shooters on a console.
And even that was bolted on. The multiplayer aspect of it
was
an afterthought. They built the game and then threw in the multiplayer arena.
Which is brilliant because that is what made the game so memorable to people.
People don't realize there's a campaign on it. I'm serious.
It's like Call of Duty.
One of the buddies that I said once he hears this is going to call me. I was talking to him and I was like, the campaign wasn't bad. He was like, their game was there wasn't a campaign.
Really?
It was just multiplayer. I was like, listen, you dingus, you were wearing a fucking diaper when it came out anyway. You don't know. You don't know. I try to talk like a geezer, like I'm older, but
the thing is with GoldenEye though is if you try to go back and play it again, which I have recently, the controls are weird. Like in this day and age, people are used to when you play a first-person shooter on a console having the dual stick control method.
It's like an evolutionary thing.
It's something that I cannot fathom playing a game without it anymore. And going back and playing these first-person shooters, and I'm gonna throw Turok into the mix. Perfect Dark. All of those.
Yeah.
They didn't have that second stick.
Jet Force Gemini. The same way.
Yes. Those games suffered as a result, or they didn't then, but they do now, and that's what makes them not hold up.
Absolutely.
So going back and playing GoldenEye is like all I want to do is move this right stick to look around, and I couldn't do that. It felt sluggish and it felt difficult, and I couldn't retrain my brain to think like I did then.
Absolutely, I get that.
So for those reasons, GoldenEye gets our number 1 spot for games that have not withstood the test.
Lovely memories, the lot of them.
That's right.
Lovely memories. Yep. But let's leave them there.
Let's leave them there, and I'm okay with that. Ryan, what are you drinking?
Yuengling.
That's right.
I'd never had this before. It's not a craft beer.
It's not.
It's a mainstream beer. 4.5% ABV. It's pretty basic, but it's also delicious, and I don't know if you can get it here.
You can't. That is the significance of us drinking this. This is a beer that you cannot buy in Oklahoma,
which is fun.
Yeah,
and it's America's oldest brewery.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, it opened in 1829.
1829. That's right.
Is that actually right?
I don't know.
I'm guessing. No, I'm not guessing. I'm trying to pull from my actual knowledge, but I think it opened in 1829.
Yuengling is a beer that is from the
1829. I knew it.
How did you know that?
Because I knew what Yuengling was. I mean, I can't work in beer and know about beer and not know about America's oldest brewery.
Well, it's a beer that I've had before because of friends that were in the military who would bring it back and let me try it. And I'm like, this is what Budweiser would taste like if Budweiser was a good beer.
Right. Well, even look at their logo. It's what Budweiser wants to be.
Yeah, yeah.
This was definitely the inspiration.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a good beer, and it's so smooth.
And it's a classic, basic mix of ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
It's got toasted caramel malt, and I know it's got Cascade hops and something else, or maybe Centennial hops. I don't remember now.
But yeah, it comes from the Northeast, and it's not here. You can't currently still buy it in Oklahoma. My wife just got back from Arkansas, and they were advertising it heavily because it's a new thing that they're carrying in Arkansas. So
Cluster and Cascade hops.
Nice. So she called me. She said, "Did you know that they're selling Yuengling here?" And I was like, "No, you better bring me back a case." So she did, and that's what we're enjoying. It's a good beer, and I love it. I wish they sold it here. I would totally. This is a great summertime beer to me.
It is, and I don't know why we don't. I don't know why we don't sell it in Oklahoma. It would sell.
It would definitely sell. We just recently got Flat Tire beer.
That's true.
So I foresee us getting this as well.
Bless up. Hashtag bless up for Fat Tire.
Fat Tire is good.
Yeah,
Did I say Flat Tire? I did say Flat Tire.
You said Flat Tire, but I was with you.
It's still new. It's still new to me.
Yeah, you're getting used to learning a new 3-letter word.
We also have a burger joint here called Flat Tire, and I get to get confused.
Absolutely. Right here in Edmond. Yeah. I used to eat there all the time when I lived on campus.
It's a good place.
UCO is a dry campus, so that was where I went and drank when I had the opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. Dude, that does it. Where can they find us?
On our website.
Which is?
www.worldwideweb.
Thank you.
JABGcast. JABGcast.com.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We're out.
See you later, crocodile.